Welcome to Deerhound Productions. I'm DaneCat33, and we'll be discussing what might be next for Five Nights at Freddy's. Secret of the Mimic ends on a massive cliffhanger, where the titular endoskeleton steals back its schematics and escapes into the world. So naturally, we're all asking where the story is going to go from here. Many people believe that we'll be jumping back to the future and continuing from Ruin's cliffhanger. Security Breach's DLC ended with the reveal of the Mimic trapped under the Pizzaplex, deep within the remains of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. The fate of the main character, Cassie, depends on what ending you manage to achieve. But regardless of the outcome, Cassie deactivates the mech's security, which was keeping the Mimic contained, and the animatronic escapes its prison. The following installments, Help Wanted 2 and Secret of the Mimic, were both prequels, leaving us on Ruin's cliffhanger for about 2 years. That did give us time to dive further into the events leading up to the DLC, and most importantly, the Mimic's tragic backstory. Now that we know the animatronic's origins, some people think it's time to continue with the story. Secret of the Mimic's early tagline was even, "To see the future, sometimes you need to understand the past." So now that we understand the Mimic and Murray's past, we can see where the story will go in the future. Ruin doesn't have much of an indicator for where the story will progress from here, especially since we don't know which ending is canon. It's likely either the elevator or scooper ending. The Mimic's scooper ending costume is used in Help Wanted 2's character display, but the elevator ending does have the most character and story moments, including a post-credits voice line, a peculiar choice, which leads me to believe it's the true ending. This extra dialogue is from Cassie's favorite animatronic, Roxanne Wolf.
Cassie.
Not much to go off here, but this means either one of two things. One, Roxy survived her fight with the Mimic. However, judging from how ruthless that guy is, I'd say it's unlikely. Our second option, which I think is more believable, is that the Mimic is now copying Roxy's voice to gain Cassie's trust. During their battle, you can even hear what sounds like the Mimic learning to replicate her voice.
Is there another option? You need to get out of there now! How?
My main question is what the Mimic has planned for Cassie if he is trying to deceive her again. Maybe it needs help getting from the pizza place basement to the surface, but in Secret of the Mimic, it's able to traverse MCM pretty easily, so I kinda doubt that. The Mimic may try to turn Cassie into his new minion, possibly another Vanny, since Vanessa was freed and Security Breach is ending. But again, I'm not quite sure. Regardless, Cassie is definitely alive. Since Ruin's release, she's become a very popular character, so I doubt they kill her off in an elevator crash. Then again, if the scooper ending is canon, then we don't have to worry about that. Moving on, in Secret of the Mimic, we learn the endoskeleton never lets its prey escape.
M2 will never stop pursuing you.
In the overtime ending, it hides in Arnold's van to prevent him from leaving. And in the other endings, it follows him from MCM to research and development, Edwin's house, and even attacking his van as he's trying to escape. So if Cassie is alive, the Mimic might not let her go so easily. He's also likely going after his other enemies, that being Gregory, Vanessa, and Freddy. The elevator ending even hints at this.
But we can't risk being followed. I'm sorry.
So judging from Gregory's concern and how the Mimic pursued Arnold, we know it's not letting Gregory and co. go so easily. So maybe the next game could focus on the endoskeleton going after Gregory, Vanessa, Freddy, and maybe even Cassie. But where would this showdown between our protagonists and villain occur? I think we've gotten plenty of hints throughout the series. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but I think we're going to Fall Fest. While it sadly wasn't a main location in Secret of the Mimic, it is the event that kicked off that game's story, since Fiona died in a fire there. While you could argue that the Fall Fest foreshadowing was just for Secret of the Mimic, I think it might be building up to Ruin's follow-up. I mean, come on, an outdoor Halloween carnival would be such a cool setting for the Mimic's next adventure. Interestingly enough, in Tales from the Pizzaplex, there's a carnival near the Pizzaplex construction site. Maybe that was written in to foreshadow that Ruin's follow-up will take us to a Fall Fest celebration near the abandoned Pizzaplex. It would also be a great way to bring the Mimic story full circle. Although, I hope this isn't the end of his story. Another possible location for a sequel is a new Pizzaplex. After all, Tales does feature multiple Pizzaplex locations, so maybe in future games we could see a new Pizzaplex. It would make sense for Fazbear Entertainment to open up a new Pizzaplex location after the mega one from Security Breach was destroyed. After all, they still have to make money somehow, and they've never let a little murder and devastation stop them before. While we're talking about the future, I do want to add that I don't think we fully understand the past just yet. Secret of the Mimic ends with the endoskeleton escaping with its schematics, and F10N4 being stuck under MCM. Both of these characters need to somehow get to the Pizzaplex for the Vents of Ruin, so we still have plenty of gaps to fill in. I believe that before we can continue the story in the future, we still have some unfinished business to attend to in the past. I think this will either take the form of another prequel game or maybe a DLC for Secret of the Mimic. And there are plenty of options for where and when this continuation of the story could occur, and what it'll entail. The first option is quite obvious. We all love it, we all want it, a Fredbears Game. Since Five Nights at Freddy's 3, people have wanted a game taking place at Fredbear's Family Diner, the original Fazbear location opened by Henry Emily and Willie Mafton. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is kind of a Fredbear's game. The mini-games take place at the diner, and a nightmarish version of Fredbear appears towards the end of the game, but the main gameplay itself doesn't take place there. Admittedly, that's pretty understandable. As far as we know, none of the Fredbear's animatronics are possessed, so that wouldn't make for very interesting gameplay. However, the Mimic presents a way around this. The endoskeleton itself could be the threat at Fredbear's. It's possible that after the animatronic escaped Murray's costume manor, it journeyed to Fredbear's. We learn in Security Breach that Fredbear's delivers pizza. And what do we see throughout MCM? Fredbear's pizza boxes, meaning that the diner is close enough to deliver. So it's entirely possible that after leaving MCM, the Mimic went to the nearby Fredbear's Family Diner. The main question I have is why exactly the Mimic would go there. But we actually get an explanation for this in Moon.exe. In this minigame, we play as a representation of the Mimic, and it's shown that he has a fondness for Fredbears. We also know that MCM helped with the establishment. Throughout the building, we can see posters of their characters or characters they made for other companies, such as Sharpay's Salon or Chica's Restaurants. We also see Fredbear's posters, and the game's launch trailer includes cut dialogue, which elaborates upon MCM's work with Fazbear.
They created several suits and mascots for us, yes, but
What's even more intriguing is that we also see posters and props from Fredbear's singing show, meaning that MCM helped with whatever that was. Not much is known about this attraction, but it looks like something before Fredbear's Family Diner, judging by how the poster is clearly much older than the diner posters. An audio log from Edwin also implies that his father worked with Fazbear Entertainment in the past.
Edwin, never forget. They're behind it. Don't trust them. Never tell them. They want to destroy you. Dad was right.
So it's interesting how much this game is hinting at MCM's involvement with Fazbear, going back even further. I think all of this is hinting that the continuation of Secret of the Mimic will follow the endoskeleton going to Fredbear's due to the Murray's love of the diner. And yet again, we'll have to face the endoskeleton hiding in costumes throughout the building. And I'm expecting one of these costumes to be a real version of Glitchtrap. In case you aren't aware, a lot of details across the series has strongly hinted at Glitchtrap's true identity being the Mimic. Similar to what we've seen in Secret of the Mimic, the M2 program seems to have adapted to Afton's persona and adopted the role of Glitchtrap up until the events of Ruin. I'm not going to dive too far into this theory, since we already made a video covering it, but I will mention that Help Wanted 2's ending features Glitchtrap setting up the Mimic's plan to escape, and Secret of the Mimic's overtime ending as the Mimic paralleling Glitchtrap's pizza party ending from the original Help Wanted. So it's pretty clear that these characters are connected. If the Mimic does end up going to Fredbear's, maybe we'll get a confirmation of Glitchtrap's identity, and even further, we might see the Mimic dress up in the real version of that costume. It's not too far-fetched, considering we know MCM made suits for Fredbear's. Speaking of which, we might also learn more about Fredbear's past, such as MCM's involvement with Fredbear's singing show. It's also possible that Fredbear's could be connected to Fall Fest. After all, the diner isn't a very big location for a game or DLC. So maybe a nearby Fall Fest event could give us some more space. My friend HLB and I were discussing it, and we think it could work pretty well. But regardless of when or where this takes place, for us to properly bridge the gap between Secret of the Mimic and Ruin, we need to find out how the Mimic and F10 and 4 got to the Pizzaplex. As previously stated, during the Ruin DLC, they're both underneath the establishment, with the Mimic sealed away, and F10 and 4's Cradle program, aka the Mex's security, being used to keep the Mimic contained. Considering the animatronics stole schematics and took them with him, it's possible that Fazbear could retrieve him and the schematics to create their own Mimic endoskeletons, similar to what we learn about in the Tales from the Pizzaplex epilogues. It's likely that F10 and 4 was also taken by Fazbear Entertainment, since in one of Help Wanted 2's endings, we see a blue van driving off with the Mex's computer. This van is very similar to the ones that Arnold and the other Fazbear workers drive, hinting that after the destruction of MCM, they retrieved F10 and 4 from the wreckage. This makes even more sense if you remember that Fazbear Entertainment owns MCM's land, so they're well within their rights to salvage whatever remains of the manor. So let's just say that Fazbear retrieved the Mimic and F10 and 4. We still don't know how exactly they ended up at the pizza place. Ruin strongly implies that Gregory and Vanessa were responsible for trapping the endoskeleton and using Mexes to conceal it. So it's possible that they took the Mex's computer from Fazbear Entertainment and brought it to the sinkhole. We see a Pizzaplex forklift nearby, so it seems like they used that to move the giant computer down there. However, we don't know how the Mimic ended up in the pizza place. The Tales from the Pizzaplex epilogues possibly shed some light on these events. While the books aren't fully canon, the Mimic's origins in both the games and books feature a lot of similarities, so it seems fair to continue to use the books to see where the story is going. In the Tales epilogues, the Mimic is delivered to the Pizzaplex along with the Glamrock animatronics, and is used by a construction worker named Gil to tear apart the heads and limbs of the endoskeletons in the burnt pizza place. The devious Mimic uses these instructions to murder the entire construction crew within the building. The outside team pours concrete over the doorway, trapping the endoskeleton inside. Sometime afterwards, a couple of teams break in, and the Mimic slaughters all but one of them, a girl named Lucia, who manages to outsmart the animatronic and springlock it inside of the court jester costume. While this likely didn't exactly happen the same in the games, I think we'll see something similar happen in one of the next installments. We can assume that roughly the same events of the epilogues happened in the games, since those feature the Mimic being delivered to the pizza place, where we see it appear in the games. I believe if we do get an adaptation of the epilogues in game form, it'll follow the teens, or maybe just a singular teen, breaking into the pizza place after the Mimic gets stuck inside. We'll have to avoid the endoskeleton while searching for a way out of the building, just like the teens in the epilogues. This would be similar to how Secret of the Mimic's gameplay adapted the plot of the second half of the Mimic's origin story, where Fazbear Entertainment sent multiple teams of workers to repair Edwin's factory and retrieve his work, but they end up getting killed by the Mimic. Similar to how in the games, they also send workers to retrieve the Mimic from Edwin's factory, but they end up getting killed by the Mimic. So I think that, similar to Secret of the Mimic, a game based on the epilogues would have roughly the same plot, but with some changes to improve the story and gameplay. I believe that another game set in the pizza place would also make a lot of sense. Not only was it an important location in Pizzeria Simulator, but it's still a major location in the new entries such as Security Breach, Ruin, and Help Wanted 2. It's fitting that a future game involving the Mimic would be set there, since it's a crucial location in a story. So after throwing around a couple of ideas, I hope you're all interested in where the story will go from here. I strongly believe we're getting another prequel. Either a Fredbears/Fall Fest game, or a game explaining how the Mimic ended up in the pizza place. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but we need to know how the endoskeleton and F10 and 4 ended up down there. Another possibility is that we could get the Ruin follow-up next, with audio logs and messages to fill in the gaps between Secret of the Mimic and Ruin. I think it would be much more interesting to actually play through those events rather than just learn about them. After how awesome Secret of the Mimic was, I have full faith in Scott and Steelwool, so I'm very excited for what's next. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and joining our monthly membership. It helps support us, and you get a bunch of cool perks like shoutouts in our videos, custom emojis, badges next to your name, exclusive looks at upcoming projects, and more. Thanks for watching, and check out some of our other videos.